Hey guys, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here with a somewhat requested video. A lot of you guys have asked me to cover the new Mystic codes that we got with London, and so I'm just going to go over them briefly, what they do, what their upgrades are, and I guess the best situations and servants for each one. So let's just get right into it and start off with the first one, which is the Mages Association uniform. So the Mages Association uniform has 3 skills. It has a Heal All, which restores the HP of all allies between 800 to 2800 depending on level. Its second skill increases the Noble Phantasm of a single ally for 20%. And finally, the last skill is Command Shuffle, which reshuffles all your command cards. And so one thing I want to bring up with this Mystic code, but applies to all the Mystic codes, is leveling it up doesn't necessarily improve the effects on your skills. For example, with that Spiritron transfer ability that increases the Noble Phantasm by 20%, it never gets any higher than 20% even if you max out the uniform at level 10. All it does is decrease the cooldown by 1 at level 6 and level 10, similar to any other skill that a servant would have. So with that said, the only skill that you're scaling with level here is the Heal All, and that's a pretty decent Heal All. It restores 2800 HP to all your allies. If you compare that to the starting Mystic code, you have a First Aid that restores 3000 HP to a single ally. So in my opinion, this skill is just leagues ahead of the other one, of the starting Caldia suit, in terms of its heal ability. The Spiritron transfer is also a good skill. 20% increase to Noble Phantasm gauge is just, it's strong. It's especially strong if you're farming and you give someone a Kaleidoscope. And then finally you have Command Shuffle. Command Shuffle is kind of a weird skill in that it doesn't directly benefit any type of team. This is kind of just like an emergency eject button in case something screws up in your hand and you just want to redo, essentially. It's a mulligan. As for what servants work best with this, it's hard to say. I think this is pretty much just an all-rounder type Mystic code. I would say it probably favors farming teams slightly more because of that Spiritron transfer for the Noble Phantasm increase. If you were using somebody like Media Lily, this would also be good. I mean, it's going to help you increase her Noble Phantasm gauge, and it gives you a heal on top of that. So if you're using a real heal spammy team with Martha, Media Lily, Marie, things like that, this can come in handy, although it's kind of nullified by what we're going to talk about next, which is the Atlas Academy uniform. So the Atlas Academy uniform has 3 skills as well. Its first skill, Reign of Osiris, removes debuffs from an ally. Second skill, Dust of Osiris, applies invincibility for 1 turn. And its final skill, Eye of Medjed, decreases skill cooldowns of an ally by 2 turns. So this is the definitive solo challenge quest run Mystic code. You're going to want to use this if you're doing something like a Ku solo or Carmilla solo or a Herc solo, any of that kind of stuff. This is the best uniform for that. It's also the best if you're in a very challenging quest, something like Nero Fest or maybe the final stage of a chapter, things like that. Reason being, of course, it gives you debuff removal, which is huge, but more importantly, it gives you invincibility, which is better than evade, and it gives you the 2-turn skill cooldown. So if you're using someone like Ku or Herc, I mean, that's taking off 2 turns from a Guts or an Evade or anything else that they need to survive. It's an extremely flexible Mystic code. All the skills are great on it. You're never going to really miss with any of these skills. They're all very handy. The only downsides to this, though, are there is no scaling on any of the skills. All you can do is decrease the cooldowns. I mean, you're always going to be invincible for just 1 turn. You're always going to just remove debuffs from a single ally, and you're always only going to decrease skill cooldowns by 2. And the cooldowns on this Mystic code itself are really long, 15 turns each. Max level, they'll be down to 13 turns each. So yeah, 13 turn cooldowns is very long. You're probably going to get only 1 of these off per match, unless it's an extremely long match. And of course, aside from your solo runners like Ku and Herc, this also goes great with anybody who's your primary attacker. Berserkers especially would love this. And if you're using a team that has Tamamo on it, or Joan on it, or any kind of stall-y team, this is perfect for it because it just gives you more ways to stall. It gives you another invincibility, it gives you some debuff removal, and it gives you that cooldown reduction so you can spam more of your stall-y skills. So this is my definitive recommendation for any challenge quest or anything difficult, or just stall teams in general. So now let's move on to the final uniform, which is the Battle Suit. The Battle Suit has 3 skills. It has All Enhancement, which is increasing the attack of all allies for 1 turn between 20 and 30%. Gandir, which inflicts stun on an enemy for 100% chance. And Order Change, which allows you to swap members with a sub-member in your party. The battle suit, for those of you guys who have seen pretty much any of my videos, you guys know this is my favorite mystic code. In my opinion, this is the best all-around mystic code. Any general situation, you're going to want to have this. First off, you have a charisma on demand, which is already phenomenal. It's stronger than Gil's charisma. Then you have a stun that's pretty much almost guaranteed to hit except in rare scenarios. And you have an ally switch so that you can swap between party members. Of course, it has a long cooldown, but this is game-changing. It's actually so good that I sometimes forget it's binded to this mystic code, and I think it's a mechanic in the game. So when I swap mystic codes, I forget I can't swap allies. But yeah, no, this will allow you to do so many things. It's so flexible. You can swap in somebody who has a stun, you can swap in somebody who can make your team invincible so you can survive a Noble Phantasm, like Mosh. You can even swap somebody out who's in danger. Let's say you have a Herc and somebody's about to Noble Phantasm him. You can swap out Herc for somebody else. This actually makes the taunt on Poster Girl kind of viable, because if you have somebody like George or something, or anybody else who's tanky, and you have that Poster Girl on them, and someone's about to Noble Phantasm, you can swap them in and they'll take the hit. There's just so many ways you can play around with this party member swapping ability. Of course, one of the best ways to do it, though, is if you're preparing for a final Noble Phantasm with a strong Berserker or a strong Servant in general, and then you're just going to want to swap in someone who can buff him. Like maybe buff him with Hans and then swap out Hans for Waver, and then buff him with Waver. That's probably the best application of this, is just to stack buffs, and you'll see a lot of people stacking buffs in YouTube videos using this ally switch. And in general, this is the best all-round mystic code in my opinion. It's great for setting things up. It's great for protecting yourself because you got that stun. It's great for putting out more damage because you have that all enhancement. It's just all around the best mystic code in my opinion. And that gets us to our rankings. So let's rank up these mystic codes. Of course, Caldia Battlesuit takes it from me. That's the best mystic code in the game, period. It's just fantastic. And the second best is probably Atlas Academy Uniform. It's just so great for challenge quests, and I would use it in challenge quests even over Battlesuit. It just gives you so much survivability. And then finally, the Mages Association Uniform, which really doesn't have many strong points aside from that heal. If you like shuffling your cards, or if you find your hands are really inconsistent, maybe you have a badly balanced deck, then you might want to use this. But in general, my recommendation is Battlesuit almost all the time, and then Atlas Academy Uniform if you're doing some kind of really difficult challenge quest and you need survivability, or you're doing some kind of solo run. And that's all I have to say about these. I hope this video helped, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll try to follow up with you. And until next time, guys, Soberoni out. Later.